Hey guys, Harley here for another episode of The Landing Pad. Alright guys, welcome to this episode of The Landing Pad. Harley here again. Now today we're going to be talking about a very important character, Thanos. Now, I've watched a lot of videos about Thanos online. Lots of very knowledgeable people talking about his history, you know, everything that he's done in the comics, all the books. I want to go a step beyond that. I want to talk about not just Thanos, the man, the mad titan, what he's done, but who is Thanos? Not just Thanos on the outside, but Thanos on the inside. I think that after you're done watching this, you'll feel a connection. I think that right now we're all going to get in touch with our inner Thanos. Thanos first came out February of 1973 in Iron Man issue number 55. So think about 1972, even the early 1970s. What was happening? In 1969, we went to the moon. You know, early in the 60s, we had the whole, you know, ooh, we're space time. I think people a lot of the time romanticized it. Space, what are we going to find there? Now we've been to the moon. We're past that. The science fiction boom is just starting. So basically, in the 1970s, we really saw the beginning of what science fiction ended up being. I mean, we have some amazing books. We have Dune. George Lucas, who went on to do Star Wars, one of the most important science fiction trilogies, more than trilogies now, did his first science fiction film, which was THX 1138, which you see references to all the time. In 1972, we have David Bowie pretending to be a spaceman. Star Trek, that is now on TV, the original series, where man is actually journeying to the stars in this. We go from romanticizing space in the 60s to now the 70s, where we've been there. Now there's no boundaries. Man can go to the stars. And it's not just, wow, this is amazing, what are we gonna find? But really, what are we gonna find? Are we gonna find things that we fear? Are we gonna find things we've never come across before? It's something that people thinking about it, trying to conceptualize. You don't know what you're going to find out there. It's an unexplored world that now we have access to, and they have access to us. Jim Starlin is really famous for doing all the Cosmic Avengers stuff, doing space operas, as they called it. But he created Thanos, who really is actually one of the most terrifying supervillains that you've ever met. He's basically the Darth Vader of Marvel Comics. He has power. People fear him a lot more than I think we remember. Jim Starlin said he came up with the idea of Thanos in a psych class. Now there's been lots of hubbub if he resembled him after Darkseid, some of Jack Kirby's other New God stuff, but even though he may have used those as physical models the way that it was drawn, that's not how he developed the character, I don't think. Now think about the fact that he was in a psychology class. What are some of the things you first learn about in psychology? You learn about human nature. Now we live in a culture that denies death. We don't like thinking about it. We don't like it when it happens. And let's be honest, we really don't know what it means. Is it an end? Is it a beginning? We really honestly don't know, which is one of the reasons that we fear it. Now, there is something that you learn about in psychology called the terror management theory. It focuses on exactly that. You focus on the terror of death. Think about Thanos. Thanos doesn't fear death. He's exactly the opposite. He has an obsession. Thanos was, I mean, there's slight variations in his origin, but he was one of the Eternals. Basically, he was already a god, born with a gene defect, so he looked different. Now, depending on which you go with, either he killed his mom later or early on, but his mom wanted to basically kill him when he was born, when she saw him. It's said that he was docile as a child, but eventually he did become obsessed with death, not just in wanting to know what it is, what it does, all that stuff, but actually he fell in love with the physical form of death. And then for his whole life, his career, everything he did was mostly just to impress this obsession. He had no fear of it, he had a love for it, which is the opposite of any type of human nature. But think about that, you're Jim Starlin, you're sitting in your psych class, they're telling you about how the human mind works, how our culture works. You think, wow, how terrifying would it be if there was a supervillain who wasn't scared of any of that, who embraced all of that, how much fear would you give him? Would it be the same amount of fear that you give death? When it comes to terror management theory, they did lots of studies on it, both ways. Now, there were some studies where the subject actually did almost have the opposite effect. When confronted and faced with death, instead of having depression and things like that, they actually kind of had a positive reaction, to the point where they didn't really care about the future or the past. They cared only about the present, because when confronted with death, they simply accepted it. And it gave them a sense of power. They knew that with that power, they controlled what they had in that moment. Thanos did that to a huge degree. Now, where he got the name Thanos, I think, was from the Latin word for death instincts, a positive death instinct, which actually was thanatos. So basically, in Latin, thanatos means the instinct for death, where eros means the instinct to live. Thanatos, Thanos, I think it's probably where he got the name. Even his name basically means death. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Landing Pad. Thank you for watching me talk about Thanos. Come read some Thanos. Figure out what you think about him for yourself. We'll see you next time.